Hello and welcome to another kidnapping and extraditing episode of Info Hazard. I'm your host, Phil, and with me, as always, is my co-hosts, Dan and David. What's up, boys?
What's up?
Hi.
Yeah.
The ceiling.
It's a dangerous time in the world. We are invading Latin American countries and kidnapping their leaders. The Trump administration has expressed interest in retreating from our role as world police and just dealing with our own sphere of influence, and presumably leaving the other major powers like China and Russia to deal with their spheres of influence. So if that is the way that the world is going, then countries like Japan are in for some trouble, right? They're right next to China, and they are potentially not going to be getting the same level of help from the U.S. as they once did. And I think they know that, and they have recently committed to being the third largest military spender. At least that's what every headline I saw told me was what was happening. As far as I can tell, they are not going to be the third largest military spender, and I just want to complain about this a little bit, and then we can get into it, okay? So I saw all these news articles saying Japan is on track to be the third largest military spender. They all kind of ran with this, and they said, okay, they're going to do a 9% increase of their military budget up to $58 billion. Right, okay. So that does not put them as the third biggest military spender. I'm going to put the rankings up on the screen for this, but big A number one at the top, that's the U.S. $968 billion. We're way out ahead of everyone. We have the sort of military that can just no-knock raid a leader of a sovereign country in the middle of the night and sweep them out of the country without opposition, because we have the most amazing military technology and training, and we can just take out whoever we want at any time. So that's the U.S. And then way below us is China at $235 billion. All right. So for Japan to be the third largest military spender, they would have to spend more on their military than Russia, who spends $145 billion. Sharp-eared listeners will notice that $59 billion is not bigger than $145 billion. So what gives? This is a 5-year plan where they're trying to reach a goal of 2% of their GDP.
Would that make them number 3 if they hit 2%?
No, it wouldn't, which is, it's driving me crazy that like they have a GDP of 4.06 trillion. Their GDP doesn't necessarily go up every year. Like right now, or in 2024, is 4.06 trillion. Ever since their big economic crash in the 90s, the real estate bubble in Japan popped, they haven't had steady growth every year. They go up and down. So if they do actually reach their goal, they get 80.6 billion, which doesn't even put them in 4th place. That still puts them behind Germany. So I guess it goes to show that you can't believe everything you read in a newspaper. You have to go to podcast for that. We're the number one source, and newspaper articles are all just copying off each other. We are reading newspaper articles and then doing a cursory check on Wikipedia to see if the statistics line up.
Scholarship.
So, yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, I guess I have a more broad question for you two about this. Do you think it's a good thing that Japan is kind of getting armed right now?
Good for who?
The world, I guess.
No, definitely
the people
not
of
them.
Japan.
In that sense, every dollar spent on defense is a dollar wasted that we could spend on doing actual good stuff. Defense and war is a huge inefficiency in the human system.
Historically, when Japan has been well armed, it hasn't been a great thing for their neighbors. Theoretically, any sort of army spending that Japan does is unconstitutional for them. They have Article 9 of their constitution says Aspiring sincerely to international peace based in justice and order, the Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat or use of force as means to settling international disputes. And in order to accomplish the same, land, sea, and air forces, as well as other war potential, will never be maintained. The right of belligerency of the state will not be recognized. So, what gives? Why are they? I think, David, I can't hear you.
I was just saying that sounded pretty much like they shouldn't be spending 2% of their GDP on military. That's their constitution.
Yeah, right. Like,
I thought
what the
our
hell, right?
constitution was a dead document.
Yeah.
It's just a really well-armed police force, dude, in case you need to go arrest the president of Venezuela.
Yeah, like this is a dead document. They must obviously not follow this. Well, I did a little research on this. Like, has Japan gone to war since their constitution following World War II? And pretty much they haven't. They sent some troops from their defense forces to Iraq in 2004. From what I saw, they didn't take place in the fighting. They were just there to like do humanitarian aid and rebuilding after the U.S. invasion. And their navy, or their defense force navy, the police navy, they participated in Operation Ocean Shield, which was the fight against the Somali pirates. And it has like one of the funnier belligerents page on Wikipedia. Again, scholarly source Wikipedia. It's like 60 nations, and everyone from the US, France, Japan, China, and then way down the list you've got Seychelles, Singapore was involved, Ukraine sent military assets to fight the Somali pirates. So there's like 60 nations all fighting the pirates, and then on the pirate side is just pirates.
No flag. They didn't even give them a skull and crossbones flag.
No, it just says Somali pirates. Yeah, so they didn't use their army, but in 2015, under Shinzo Abe, they passed this law called the Legislation for Peace and Security.
Boy, I know where this is headed.
But the basic takeaway of this is
war.
Japan recognizes the right for collective self-defense. Now, what does that mean? It means that if our allies attack, we can go into overseas wars to defend them, which, you know, that leaves some loopholes to their no war policy. That's like, if we were allowed to declare war only in self-defense, then like that basically our reason for war for like all American wars basically holds true.
Right.
Like, we always have some sort of self-defense justification for the war.
Right. You're one false flag operation away.
Yeah, they're committing war against us by selling us drugs. Now this is a war of self-defense. They're committing a war against us by having weapons of mass destruction. That now we can.
They're committing war against us by allowing coal gas to build up in the boiler room of the USS Maine.
That's right. And I will not forget the Maine, no matter how much you tell me. In a broad sense, we're kind of at this point where it's no longer our business as Americans. We're geopolitically retreating from their side of the world. I mean, at least that's the idea. I kind of doubt that we're going to be able to actually extricate ourselves from that and really live out this dream of spheres of influence, because it's a global economy. We're always involved everywhere in the world.
Was this... I didn't ever read that strategy document for the U.S. military. I saw that it was clearly not interested in Europe's security anymore. Is it also not claiming to not be interested in the Asia Pacific anymore?
No, not specifically, but it did sort of outline that U.S. responsibility would be shared among the major powers. I don't think it outlined specifically which ones, but China has to be one of them if you're going to say that there are only a few powers that matters. Like, China definitely is on the list.
The U.S., France, and Zimbabwe. Right.
Yeah, I was going to say Seychelles, but sure.
Somali pirates.
Yeah. Somali pirates. They took on all those nations.
That's pretty
They're
badass.
clearly powerful.
Yeah, so you were asking, is this a good thing? So the American nationalist perspective. So first of all, yeah, I mean, Danny's answer is of course right. Humans have to progress past this war thing or we're going to kill ourselves. And it's not clear how many decades more of this we can take. So yeah, it's bad that basically it just seems like the trend is we're going to be having a lot of wars, like more war seems like the trend. And the Pax Americana, as it was called, the period of relative peace is drawing to a close because America is stepping back from its role. So,
And actively ending the peace,
you're right.
you know,
Yeah, so,
actively starting wars.
right.
Can't ignore that part.
Right, and basically supporting or giving really unreasonable amounts of deference to the people who do start those wars, giving Putin a million opportunities to drag things out and to make nice. If you don't have any idealism or hope for a better tomorrow, and you just see the world as we're just going to continue in this zero-sum view of the world, I guess it's a good thing for the U.S.'s allies to be able to carry some of their own defensive weight. It would be better for the U.S. to not have to spend as much on its military. The U.S. we're already doing the one side of the equation we're already sort of winding down on, right? Like we're just reducing our global military commitments. But anyway, this system was kind of working.
I wonder about that. Like, are we? I don't know if we're never reducing our Pentagon budget, are we?
Right. They're increasing the budget. Right, despite like winding down our international, like our global commitments, we're starting wars, threatening Greenland, and increasing our military budget. It's not really winding down, just winding down on responsibility.
I was curious what Japanese people thought about this, and I found some opinion polling that regarding the collective security, the legislation, about half of Japanese people are responding to this Kyoto News Agency poll. That was a good idea, the collective self-defense, and about half opposed it. So people are pretty split. In the same poll, 60.4% approved of this plan by Sane Takaichi to increase defense spending. So, like, not everyone's on board with the idea of collective self-defense, but a majority of people are like, it's probably time to start investing in defense, whether or not we're going to be using it for these collective self-defense things.
Right, a couple of years have passed, right?
Pragmatic thing.
A couple of years
have passed.
I mean, the U.S. it's really easy to say, like, yeah, we don't need a military when the U.S. is a close ally and has its military parked there.
And seems reliable.
It's so weird, though, because it's not like we're really retreating from the region. We said all this stuff about the world's got to be, the major powers got to do it. You take control of our sphere of influence. But then we signed this deal with Taiwan. Like we just signed like an $11 billion arms deal with Taiwan. So we're still involved.
Not retreated, yeah.
I think the biggest factor is we're just not reliable. Like,
well,
I
think
we're a bad partner.
That's one. Another factor is that this has been a major sticking point for Trump, right? Trump has consistently, I mean, not so like vocally in Asia, but with NATO, he's like, NATO partners need to be funding more of their own self-defense. He's been very consistent with that since his first term. And I would assume that with all these tariffs on everybody, I feel like this was probably one of the things that he must have spoken about with almost all of them. It's like, how can you bribe me? And you need to spend on your own defense. I feel like this is one of his main policy things.
Yep. Yeah. It's in line with that, but he still just is in favor of the military spending. So it's like you're not even seeing the benefit of retreating from these obligations. They need to spend their fair share. And that's fine and well. You're a business-minded person such as Trump, then yeah, they pay more their fair share and we get to reduce our investment. But that's not what we're doing. We're just increasing our investment and not seeing the benefit.
I've heard about the U.S. military posture is that we're half expecting a war with China in the next couple of years. And so, yeah, it's not about reducing costs overall, but the truth is the resources are going to be needed in the Pacific soon. If that's what the future holds, then winding down from commitments in Europe and, in Obama's words, pivoting to Asia kind of makes sense. And yeah, that wouldn't necessarily result in a net cost cut of spending.
Right. That's true. Just some extra little details at the end. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting how they plan to go about this. This is a very anti-American sort of way of getting money for something. They plan to increase taxes to fund this program. Not just take on crazy debts, but like actually get the money to pay for things.
The fuck are they doing over there, dude?
Oh my God.
It's nuts.
Raising taxes.
They are planning to
Only on poor people.
put in
Right.
raise corporate and tobacco taxes and an income tax, and they're going to pay for the things that they want for their government.
Every time you smoke a cigarette, they buy one more bullet, I guess.
Saving lives or something.
They're going to buy a bunch of American arms. That's the plan. Like, we're already selling them Tomahawk missiles, which are controversial because they can be used mounted to boats and strike inland targets, not typically seen as like self-defense weapons, but, collective self-defense, who knows? That could mean anything.
Was this collective self-defense thing a constitutional amendment?
I don't know. Some of the work is already done for them. They had sort of a funny workaround for their self-defense forces where they had aircraft carriers, but they called them helicopter carriers, and they only landed helicopters on them. But when they signed the collective defense, agreement, then they started landing F-35s on them. It's like, oh wow, these helicopter carriers can be used for jets. Who knew?
That just makes me picture some position in the Japanese military, like a semantic officer, where your job is coming up with these creative justifications for how this is just self-defense.
A first officer, Weasel Words Division. And if you want to join the Weasel Word Corps, then join us on our channel every week.
If you've got Weasley words, leave them in the comments, you weasel.
What assets of yours can be retrofitted to carry F-35s? Let us know. All right. Bye.